Wallabies finally break their drought over England, 30 points to 28, folks. Key events, stats, and thoughts coming up. And you guys can let me know yours as always. Good crowd out in Perth. Nice, dry track. Nobody's slipping over like we saw at Eden Park. But to be fair, if you're going to watch the highlights of this game and haven't seen it, the second half is probably where the action is at. Prior to kickoff, though, the Wallabies lost Quade Cooper with a calf, seems like a strain. He didn't want to risk going onto the field with this calf not feeling 100% right, so that's a bit of a blow, because remember, he's back from Japan, and basically the guys who came back from Japan were given pretty prominent roles, so it was going to be a pretty important one for him, but to be fair, Nowell Lolesio stepped up to the plate pretty well in his absence. He ended up taking a high ball pretty early, actually, Lolesio, and then Tom Curry turned him straight over. He won a penalty at the breakdown, which led to 3 points to the English. Farrell put the ball over the sticks. So, that was... I was like both impressed with him taking the high ball and then a bit gutted for him because he's just come in late and he immediately gets turned over after a nice play. So sometimes that's just the way it goes. That's on your teammates to protect you in that situation. But anyway, 9 minutes, Itoje gets told off for screaming at the line out, trying to disrupt the Aussie throw, which was bizarre because you don't often get that kind of direct message from the ref. But anyway, the Aussies still mucked that line up anyway. And to be fair, some of the stuff I thought might happen in this game was panning out in the start. For example, Gus Bell ends up getting pinged at scrum time. I thought he may struggle in that area. He bounces back though with a turnover one because around the park has generally been his strength. But to be honest, the Aussie scrummaging actually held up pretty well. But that was just one kind of early example. And then Freddie Steward kind of getting over Tom Banks in there. So a few things that were potentially going to happen in this game seemed like they were going to be playing out. That being said, first really close chance for a try, like proper, genuine try-saving moment comes on 19 minutes when Tom Curry hits a gap and then he gets the ball out to Marchant. Really nice pass wide to Marchant. Marchant is bloody close, but Koroibete runs him down and manages to tackle him, so it's a proper try-saver. The next couple of phases later, though, Porecki ends up giving away a penalty at the breakdown. So it still cost them 3, but it could have quite easily cost them 5 or 7. So that was kind of a win for the Wallabies, to be fair, given the situation and the chance that the English had generated. Unfortunately for Tom Banks, he goes off a couple of minutes later, taking a high ball over Billy V and tumbles to the ground, seems to smack his arm, so it looked like a pretty sore and potentially long-term one for Tom Banks, so we wish him a speedy recovery from whatever it was. The commentator speculated it might be a break, but anyway, it was pretty nasty, so Petaia has to come on. Kellaway moves to fullback in his stead, but Wallabies are awarded a penalty anyway, so at least they get 3 points out of that whole debacle. So 3 points to 6. Alaalatoa gets injured not long later. Remember, the Aussies are already without Tupou, so the tight head stocks are looking pretty thin. England get a penalty, but they end up missing that one. One of the only kind of missed goal kicks that night. 33 minutes. There's a bit of handbags, which seems like it's just going to be handbags between two of the locks, Darcy Swain and Johnny Hill, but it escalates a little bit more than normal. There's a bit of hair pulling. And then Darcy Swain ends up doing a wee headbutt on Johnny Hill. And as soon as I saw that, I knew he was done. I knew he was getting red carded. Hill ends up getting yellow carded, which kind of, from an Australian point of view, at least mitigates it for them, because it means it's still 14 on 14 for part of that time. But Swain is gone for the rest of the game. The Aussie commentators were fully blaming Johnny Hill for that one, basically saying that he instigated him and achieved his goal or whatever it was. But it's one of those ones, man, you can't be headbutting people, even if it's a relatively innocuous headbutt. As soon as you do that, man, you're gone. And he's pretty dumb for doing it. So it'll be hopefully a lesson learned for him. But either way, the Wallabies get one more penalty before half time. So we go into the sheds and it's 6 points apiece. There's a couple of minutes left on the yellow for Hill, but there's a red looming over the Wallabies for the entire second half. The possession and territory haven't been too different. There's only been one clean break aside, so as is kind of seen by the scoreline being 6 points apiece, there's not been that much going on in the first half in terms of genuine try-scoring opportunities. Second half, the English do finally manage to get a try, but not until the Wallabies have actually gone into the lead. They get a penalty pretty early on in the second half, just before the yellow card goes over. So they go into the lead 9 points to 6, which is not bad, seeing as they know they're going to be without a man for the rest of the game. But it's Genji on 49 minutes, and it's an English maul, which you can partially thank the boot of Owen Farrell for getting them so close to the Aussie line. It's a pretty ugly maul. It has to kind of go through a couple of phases or kind of like fragments a wee bit, and they have to kind of readjust, but they do well. And yeah, man, they go over. So all starts from a breakdown penalty, which Farrell kicks into touch, which then becomes a maul, which becomes a Genj try. So yeah, really well done to the English forwards for that one. They go in front 11 points to 9. And at that point, I wrote a note, man, like the Wallabies defense is still well to hang on, because the English pack was absolutely turning the screws. The Aussies were just kind of holding on for grim death. There was a penalty to England. They kicked that one to make it 14-9. And it really did look like the English were just kind of like the arm wrestle, where it's just, you know, they're starting to falter and it's getting too much, and it's only going to go one way. But doesn't end up panning out like that. A much needed try for the Aussies. Remember, they haven't scored a try yet. It's all been penalties. 64 minutes. Petaia is the one who ends up getting the try. It's a bunch of phases, and that one I think started from Koroibete contesting the restart. I think he beat Nowell to the restart, so it ends up with a scrum, right? And they're able to go through some phases. So really, really much needed. I think that was an absolute momentum shifter. I think if there's a moment you can look back to where this game kind of started to turn, the Petaia try is probably one of the main markers. And then it gets worse for England because Billy V ends up getting yellow carded for a kind of shoulder to the head on Michael Hooper. Now, initially, James Dolman was saying to the TMO, Brendan Pickerel, that he was at penalty only. And I literally wrote, like, this is a joke if that's a penalty, because earlier in the year, that would have been a red. Like, when at least the competitions I was watching, the Premiership, the URC, Super Rugby, cards like any contact like that to the head was getting red carded. There was a real spate of red cards you were seeing every week, more so in some competitions than others, but every week there was multiple red cards. Then they've kind of eased up on it. Billy gets mitigated, I think, because there's two men in the tackle. But initially Dolman had him as passive, but I think yellow card is kind of fair for the way they've been ruling it in more recent times. But if it had been penalty, I don't think I would have been happy. I think they do come to the right result in the end. But yeah, maybe that's one argument for us not being able to hear what the refs are saying, because it seems like he was pretty close to getting it wrong. But anyway, the Aussies capitalise pretty much like 2 minutes later from Billy V's presence not being there. And Billy V had some impact on the game up until that point. They end up with a 5-metre line out, and if you've watched any Super Rugby this year, you know that half this Wallabies forward pack is made of Brumbies, and those Brumbies are really good at scoring maul tries. The guy who's often at the finishing edge of that Brumbies maul is Folau Fainga'a, and he's doing that role for the Wallabies here really well. Really good timing from him, because he peels off right as Luke Cowan-Dickie comes in. So it's just like they swap spots, and it means Fainga'a's got kind of a clear run to the line. So really well done, and a pressure conversion to take it beyond 7. Lolesio, not even supposed to be starting, slots it cool as you like. So really, really good effort from the young man, because Lolesio is still, as I said, very young, and there's been times when maybe his composure's not quite been there at test level, but he's getting better as he goes on, and this was a very good feather in his cap. It gets better for Australia as well, because they get a scrum penalty on 74 minutes, and this is where Slipper's come on. Remember, Slipper's usually a loose head who kind of fills in at tight head when needed. Massive penalty. I thought the game is probably over at that point, and definitely over when Samu gets the try on 77 minutes. The Aussies are really having fun at this point, man. Like, I mean, Lolesio's taken the ball to the line, really confident. Jake Gordon's come on, he's taken the ball to the line. Kerevi's getting big go forward carries. Courtney as well. So they are doing really well. They get the ball to Samu. He's able to step Ludlam, who's interesting to come on for Curry. Like, Curry didn't come back on in the second half, which was maybe a big blow for England, although Ludlam did get through a bunch of tackles. He missed that one. But, 30 points to 14. There's no coming back from England from there. But they gave it a good shot, man. Like, when it's almost like there's nothing left to lose. England, who've not really been cutting loose at all in this game, suddenly cut loose. Arundel, who's only just come on. Remember, this is the highlight reel guy who kind of Eddie's put out a genuine question. Is he going to be able to do the same stuff at international level? Well, from the 2 runs he had, he did pretty well. First touch of the ball, he beats about 3 defenders. He makes Kellaway and I think it was Lolesio who kind of crash into each other look pretty silly. And he goes over for a try. Shouldn't have been able to score that try, but first touch, literally. Welcome to international rugby, young man. 30 points to 21. And then they restart. Laws wins the restart. And then they're able to get a... Lolesio gets yellow carded for a deliberate knock on. And, they're able to go down the... Maybe Law's restart was for the Arundel try. Anyway, it's late at night here. I need to go to bed. England knock on the door and Van Portfleet's able to kind of finish off as another guy scores on his debut. At that point, England got a 2-man advantage because, the red card and the yellow card for the Aussies and Billy V's yellow card's already expired. So, and Arundel had gone close himself, to be honest. So, pretty crazy stuff at the end, but it only makes the scoreline look a little bit less lopsided. Like, it looked like it was going to be a really big scoreline to the Wallabies, but it ends up being pretty close in the end, even if the result wasn't in doubt from the time Samu went over for that try. So, run meters finished 272 to 391, so England dominate that. England have got more possession, but the Wallabies just edged the territory. Clean breaks is 3-2 in favour of England. So it's kind of low for this game. Like, it's a testament to the defence of both sides. Offloading game, though, the Wallabies 10-5. Like, Lolesio, like I mentioned, 3 of the offloads were him. He was throwing the ball around with real confidence. Pretty impressed with him, even if he did get yellow card at the end. Koroibete had 3 offloads as well, to be fair. The 2 guys back from Japan who did play for the Wallabies were their 2 top ball carriers, Kerevi and Koroibete, each with 12 carries. Kerevi beats 3 defenders. Courtney gets 64 run meters plus that try-saving tackle. Neville on debut, 16 from 16 tackles from him. A few line-out wins as well, not bad. Arundel, though, man. 2 runs right towards the end of the game. 2 runs, 54 meters, 4 defenders beaten, and a clean break. In terms of impact per minute, that guy is your man of the match. But obviously, he only played right at the end. But, Laws, 13 from 14 tackles for him. Solid shift from him, as usual, as you've kind of come to expect. But, maybe England next week, with despite the loss, will take a little bit of a confidence boost from the way they finished the game. But ultimately, for the Wallabies to be down for the majority of the game, for a man, even if England did have 2 yellow cards of their own to kind of balance it out, the Wallabies still had to do it tough. And when it came time to step up, they really did it. So, well done to the Wallabies boys. They've broken their drought over the English, like I said. Still got 2 games to go in the series. They'd only finished by 2 points. So, hopefully, we're going to get an interesting 2 further matches to the series. You guys let me know your thoughts. What other kind of thoughts did you guys have on the games? Key performers, standout moments, turning points, changes maybe for next week? You guys let me know your thoughts. And, I'll talk to you guys again soon.